It's Sunday evening the 13th. The Grant County Fair is over. There'll be no more live background music. You'll just have to listen to the stuff that I crank out by daylight. Anyway, it's August 13th, about 9 o'clock in the evening. It's about 20 minutes before I'll actually start doing the NGC series. I've changed the setting over to day mode and 000 on the screen. I'm going to revisit a couple of the galaxies from last night at a certain point just to be able to compare them to the results today. Here is Altair. Hopefully just about everything that we look up tonight will fall within the sphere of Altair as you see it on the screen right now, in the best region of the screen for being able to make out faint fuzzies. Here we have a view of Messier 27, the Dumbbell Nebula. It's only a minute after I just showed you that view of Altair. We're not anywhere near sky dark. It's about a minute later, 9 o'clock, almost 9:01. Wanted to show you how the effect of the sky has on the kind of detail and contrast you see. The central star is quite visible within the Dumbbell Nebula because it's not being overwhelmed by the rest of the nebulosity. 14th magnitude central star. It's now 9:20, which is about the time I started last night. We had a look at the Dumbbell Nebula at that time then. I'd like to point out that I'm seeing the central star on the screen as well as the extensions going off to the 2 and 7 o'clock positions that make it look like a football. I think leaving so far tentatively leaving the imaging system in daytime mode and not turning on IR optimization has actually given more depth of image texture at 128 flood 42 like we're using now. So we now begin our series of studies. However, we're going to skip the North American Nebula 7000 since we're not really going to see anything of it. Much too large and too faint. We're going to have a variety of different studies tonight with the exception of nebulae. We're going to have more planetary nebulae and several of them are going to be quite large, reasonably large. This is NGC 7001. It's a galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 12.9. Football shape 1.4 by 1.1, 324 million light years distant. So it's larger than M31, probably about 200,000 light years across, but it's a minus 11, almost 12 degrees declination. NGC 7003, we skipped 2, is too far south, galaxy in Delphinus. Magnitude 13, 1.1 by 0.8, also football shape, 240 million light years distant. More like maybe about a little larger than our own galaxy, which is 100,000 light years across. This is at almost plus 18 degrees. I'd like to point out last night I introduced using arrowheads, and what I do is I just copy the arrowhead so that it points in the general location of where the study should be, and then make a slight adjustment to its position to point out my best candidate. This galaxy, however, at magnitude 13 is quite obvious on the screen. Another skip, and we're now at NGC 7006, a globular cluster in Delphinus. Magnitude 10.6, fairly faint and small, 2.8 arc minutes. Its brightest stars are 15.6. It is a condensed class 1. Wow. 130,000 light years distant. This one is out there. And at magnitude 10.6, that's pretty bright. Anyway, it's at plus 16 degrees, so we're getting a pretty good view of it, and it's in the right position on the screen for the best view possible. Ordinarily, I wouldn't have gone to this planetary nebula NGC 7008 in Cygnus because it's too far north. We're blocking part of the aperture. It's 54.5 degrees north declination. I think we're losing maybe half the aperture, magnitude 12, but it's large, 86 by 69. Central star is magnitude 13.9. It'll be interesting if we could see it, given half the aperture is being blocked. Stars should look weird too. It's 2,800 light years distant. Once again, 54.5 degrees north, but it was such an interesting planetary, we just had to have a look at it. NGC 7009, this is compensation for the last one. This is another planetary, but further south, minus 11.5 degrees, in Aquarius. Magnitude 8.3, 28 by 23 arc seconds. It's about a magnitude brighter than the ring, and it's about a little less than half the size. The central star's magnitude 12.9 is 4,300 light years distant. Enjoy that one. I'm not sure we're going to see much in the way of texture. It's way too bright, but it's in a good position on the screen. I have to say, we're getting a little better views of galaxies using daylight mode without the IR optimization than we did last night under the similar conditions. NGC 7010 is a galaxy in Aquarius. It's magnitude 19, 1.9 by 1, so it's an oblate elliptical, 380 million light years distant. This baby is huge. It's got to be at least 300,000 light years across, minus 12.5 degrees declination. Sky folk, we are definitely getting better results on galaxies tonight. Now that we've just zeroed out all the settings on the screen, contrast, color, brightness, and we're using day mode without IR optimization. Here's an 11.3 magnitude galaxy, 4.5 by 1.4, NGC 7013 in Cygnus, almost 30 degrees north declination. And there's plenty to be seen there. It is bright, it is large, but it is a really good view. NGC 7015 is a galaxy for the first time in Aquarius, the horse. Magnitude 12.5, 1.8 by 1.6 football-shaped galaxy. Spiral with a lowercase bc, 220 million light years distant. This is also 150 to maybe 175,000 light years in diameter, larger than Messier 31, 11.5 degrees above the celestial equator. All right, you should have one look at the screen and know we have gone deep, deep south. We're in NGC 7016 in Capricornus, a galaxy. Magnitude 15, I don't think there's any hope of seeing this. 0.7 by 0.7 arc minutes. It's an elliptical and it's 469 million light years distant, so it's about the size of Messier 31, which would be 1 arc minute at about 360. This one's at minus 25.5 degrees. If there's a galaxy up there, I'd be blown away, but at least we made an effort at it. Here's another no-show, another 15th magnitude galaxy, not even a click away from the last one, 70. This is NGC 7017, galaxy Capricornus, magnitude 15, even smaller, 0.6 by 0.5 arc minutes. Lenticular spiral, but 452 million light years distance, about the size of Messier 31, if we had any sense of seeing it. Another no-show, but this one's a little brighter. Magnitude 14, NGC 7018, galaxy in Capricornus, 502 million light years distant. If we find one that's 1 billion light years distant, I'm going to make sure I write it down and see if we can have a look at it when it culminates to the deep south. We're not anywhere near culmination now. We're actually at right ascension hour 2107 and minus 25.5 degrees declination, so we're not much above the horizon. Here we have another galaxy in Capricorn, very silent motion, but it lasted for several seconds on the mount. Magnitude 14.9, NGC 7019, 0.6 by 0.3, so an oblate presentation galaxy, spiral with a bar, 494 million light years distant, minus 24.5 degrees. At least we're seeing some stars on this. NGC 7024 is an open cluster in Cygnus, some 10 arc minutes in size, so it should fit on the screen, 5,700 light years distant. It's plus 41.5 degrees. I am smelling my skunk friend, but I have been told by those in the know that Bigfoot often rubs skunk weed on their fur to avoid being detected. So let that be known. If Bigfoot is here, he's welcome to come and have a look at the sky, the deep stars out there in space, to see where he's come from. NGC 7025, galaxy in Delphinus, magnitude 12.8, largish, 1.9 by 1.2 football-shaped spiral, 226 million light years distant, so larger than Messier 31, 16, almost a half degrees declination in a positive direction. Oh, we just had a satellite passage. Could have been a Perseid, no, I have to look at it. We have another planetary nebula in Cygnus, NGC 7026, magnitude 12, 25 by 9. So this one's fairly squashed with a magnitude 14 central star. We're probably looking at it like we look at the Dumbbell Nebula. That's at a different angle than the ring. 7,700 light years distant, plus 47, almost 48 degrees, but we're not getting any aperture blockage. By the way, that probably was a meteor. It passed way too fast, and I think there were some irregularities to its motion. So we did get to catch a Perseid in my estimation. High probability. Probably a little higher probability than Bigfoot is now somewhere in skunkweed in our backyard. NGC 7027, another bright planetary nebula in Cygnus. This one's almost as bright as the ring and much smaller. Magnitude 9.6, 18 by 11. The central star is magnitude 16.5, 2,600 light years distant, 42 degrees north declination. Rich star field. This should be a nice test. One of our fainter galaxies, magnitude 15 of the night. NGC 7028, galaxy in Delphinus, plus 18.5 degrees, good sky position, magnitude 15, football shape, 0.8 by 0.4, not football shape, that's an oblate, 0.8 by 0.4 arc minutes. It's a spiral, 218 million light years distant, so kind of a super dwarf-sized galaxy. If we're seeing this, we're doing pretty good. But I do believe I see it on the screen, and I'm off at an angle, so it's a pretty good presentation. Too much was suspect last night using night mode with IR optimization. We're back into Capricornus, but not nearly as far south. 20.5 degrees. We're in the 21st hour and 11th minute. This is a magnitude 13.7 football-shaped galaxy, 0.9 by 0.7 arc minutes, spiral with a bar, so it may present more like an edge-on, 393 million light years distant, and that puts it about a little larger than our Messier 31. I can see the galaxy clearly on the screen. I am duly impressed. Very nice that we're able to see that far south. Okay, we're now almost 51 degrees north. We're getting some aperture block from the roof tri. This is NGC 7031. It's an open cluster in Cygnus, magnitude 9.1, some 5 arc minutes in size, 50 stars. The brightest is magnitude 11.3. It's a class 4, which means the stars are fairly spread out for the distance. And however, they are all very close in magnitude. It's a type numeric 1. So the brightest star is about 2 magnitudes fainter than the cluster as a whole. This may be our first Pegasus galaxy of the evening, although we've had one several nights now. NGC 7033 is a galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 14.1. It's a football-shaped galaxy, 1.1 by 0.8. Spiral of a lenticular type, some 404 million light years distant, which puts it larger than M31, which is very interesting to me because we have very few galaxies that are as large as M31 within, let's say, 200 million light years. But when we get out there, they start getting quite large. It may be that they're just getting, the smaller ones are getting too faint to be part of the NGC catalog. This baby is 15 degrees north declination, not too bad of a position in the sky. Here we have NGC 7034. We didn't travel very far to get to it. Galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.8, 1 by 0.7, football-shaped elliptical, 398 million light years distant, so a little larger than Messier 31, plus 15 degrees. I'll probably leave the arrowhead set between that, the last one, and this one in the same position so you can see how much of a variation there might be in the position of the galaxy when it makes a small jump on the Landsman DG11. We're now deep south again in Capricornus, minus 23 degrees. Unlikely we're going to see this galaxy, NGC 7035A. There's no 7035A as far as like 35 without the A. It's magnitude 15.4, slightly more than edge on, 1.2 by 0.5 arc minutes. The size at 450 million light years indicates it's probably about 200,000 light years in diameter. We may not get to see any of that, however, given its low sky position. Not much of a jump here either. NGC 7035b galaxy in Capricornus, magnitude 15.6, no information about its size. It's an elliptical minus 23 degrees declination. At least we're seeing a few stars on the screen. NGC 7036 is an open cluster in Pegasus, magnitude 12, so quite faint, which means its brightest stars will be in the 14 to 15. It's 8 by 5 arc minutes, so a little oblate, kind of like the Pleiades M45, which has that same kind of shape. 3,300 light years distant, plus 15.5 degrees declination. NGC 7037 is an open cluster in Cygnus, 7 arc minutes in size, 4,800 light years distant, almost 34 degrees north declination. There's no more information on this particular oval cluster. And there's your view. NGC 7039 is, very bright region of stars. Open cluster in Cygnus, magnitude 7.6, some 25 arc minutes in size. So it's spilling outside the field of view, which is 15 by 20 arc minutes. 50 stars, the brightest is magnitude 11.3. It's a class Roman numeral 3, which means they're pretty spread out, but it's and in terms of stellar variation and magnitude, it's a 2, kind of middling, 3,100 light years distant, 45.5 degrees. I don't think we're getting any blockage of the aperture, however. Brilliant field of stars. Well, you know Pegasus is a winged horse. Well, this is Equus. It's just a horse with its feet on the ground. This is NGC 7040, magnitude 14.9, pretty much face on, 0.9 by 0.8 arc minutes in size. It's a spiral with some peculiarities. Kind of wondering if we'll see any of that, although it's fairly faint. 275 million light years distant, so it's about the size of our own galaxy, almost 9 degrees in declination. From the horse to the flying horse, from the ground to the air, NGC 7042 galaxy in Pegasus. Fairly bright, magnitude 12, should be very present on the screen. 2 by 1.8 arc minutes, which means it's a spiral of lowercase b, so pretty much face on, some 231 million light years distant. We've probably seen the core at magnitude 12.8. And then the other parts of it are more like 13.5 each, so we should be able to see some of the extension. This is 13.5 degrees declination. Yeah, I can see it pretty much as a sphere up there on the screen. Very nice. Barely a tick, and we're at NGC 7043, another galaxy in Pegasus, magnitude 13.7, 1 by 0.9. Spiral with a bar, 234 million light years distant, and I can kind of see it up there. So yeah, about the same. I believe it's the same distance. I'll have to check that. I don't have it memorized from the previous galaxy 7042. This one's pretty for an open cluster. NGC 7044. It's a sprinkling of stars in Cygnus. Magnitude 12. About 6 arc minutes in size. The brightest stars are magnitude 15. That's why they look so pretty. It's a class 2-2, middling in terms of distribution and middling in terms of magnitudes. 10,300 light years distant and 42.5 degrees declination. I love that little sprinkling of stars there. It's very beautiful. And we're back into the stables. Equus. NGC 7046, galaxy magnitude 13.1, Largish, 1.9 by 1.4, so football shaped. Spiral with a large bar, 187 million light years distant, which puts it about the size of the great Andromeda galaxy, some 150,000 light years in diameter. It's at plus about 3 degrees declination. Should be a good view. NGC 7047 is a galaxy in Aquarius, magnitude 13.4. Oblate 1.2 by 0.7. It's a spiral with a ring, 264 million light years distant, probably about 115,000 light years in diameter, and pretty far, well, right on the equator, almost 1 degree south of it. There's a view, kind of like that. This is the planetary of the night, NGC 7048 Planetary Nebula in Cygnus, magnitude 11, 60 by 50 arcseconds, so smaller than the ring, but also a couple magnitudes fainter. Its central star is magnitude 18. I doubt we'll get any hints of that. 5,300 light years distant, but it's well positioned in the sky, plus 46 degrees declination. Very, very nice. There's a quick look ahead. NGC 7050 lets you see if you can figure out what it is. It's 5 by 2 arc minutes, 3,800 light years distant, 36 degrees in declination. What might it be? Let's have a look at the Crescent Nebula, and I want to check out one or two of the galaxies from last night so we can compare them in terms of the use of different settings, going from night to day mode. Well, here's our crescent of the evening. Can't see it very well myself. We'll have to look at it tomorrow. It's not our Carpe Noctem view, however. It's just a way of checking sky position. It's almost on the zenith, but there's no blockage of the aperture of the scope. I'm sure it's a very nice view. So here we go. I've selected NGC 6968. It's a galaxy in Aquarius. It's minus 8 degrees. I've already imaged it. It's magnitude 14, 1.5 by 1.1. It's a lenticular spiral, class O, 279 million light years distant, which puts it at about the size of the Andromeda galaxy, minus 8 degrees, and it'll be an interesting comparison. What I would look for on this is the fact that it should have about a magnitude 14.8 core, and because it's 1.5 by 1.1, any extensions will be in the 16.5 magnitude range. So I can clearly see the galaxy there. Now, how will it look on the screen mañana? Carpe Noctem.